Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Uncork Corner podcast. I'm Nick. I'm here with my co host, Bianca. And as always, we are here to bring you the best in St. Patrick's Day foods. Uh, the
St.
re-
Patrick's Day food. I thought we were talking about St. Patrick's Day booze.
and booze. Why not? Let's do it all. I got my green hat on from the Alchemist Brewing in our trip in
I got a
Vermont
green
last
sweater
year.
on.
Perfect.
I'm festive.
The River's Green over in Chicago. They dyed it this year. We got some Irish whiskey here. We got some cocktails, uh, some other fun stuff to talk about. So let's get this thing kicked off and started. Why don't we start by talking about cocktails? So, as I understood it, we were both going to bring a cocktail in here that we're going to make and share the recipe. What did you make today?
I didn't prepare ingredients far enough in advance. So I made a recipe that I found called the Drunken or the Lucky Irishman. Sorry, not drunken, although drunken might be a better way to put it. The Lucky Irishman, and it is the simplest recipe. It is 2 ingredients: Irish whiskey and Bailey's or other cream liqueur. I'm sure it would work. It is only an ounce of each over ice. So that's what we have here.
It's very exciting.
It's the most simple, but it's honestly pretty good. I mean, it's just like a nice, it's definitely like a good dessert drink. Like, I made it after dinner for this podcast, and I feel like it is the perfect dessert drink because it's a little bit of cream. It has a nice flavor from the whiskey. I use the Napogue, what is it, 12-year aged whiskey.
Napoleon Castle 12 year. Yep.
And that it's pretty good. It is tolerable. I enjoy it. I've been drinking it.
Tolerable. What a glowing review.
I don't drink a lot of whiskey, but this is okay.
Yeah, and I was thinking whenever I think Irish whiskey cocktails, my mind immediately jumps to Irish coffee. And don't worry, although we are drinking an Irish coffee, just because, as Bianca said, it is after dinner. It is 9:45 p.m. here. But that's the cocktail that I wanted to go with for this one. So instead of doing a traditional Irish whiskey, I actually found one that's a slight twist. That's not that big of a leap off of it. And basically, all it added in, along with the coffee and the heavy whipping cream, is coffee liqueur. So I threw in some Kahlua for this one, a little splash of it, 3/4 of an ounce, along with 4 ounces of coffee and a heavy whipping cream float, which, as Bianca can see on the camera here, it is floating nicely on top of my coffee.
You
And
made you made this yourself? The
I
heavy
did.
whipping cream float?
Yep, it was
Got fancy.
yeah, didn't use canned whipped cream or anything. I really did it up today, and I used some Coffee Hounds coffee for it. Actually, I
Nice.
used because I needed something quick and easy, one of the pour over pouches from Coffee Hounds. Whipped it together, made the perfect amount of coffee for it. Actually, made more than that, and we drank the rest. But and along with that, 1.5 ounces of also the Napoleon Castle 12 for this one. I chose the Napoleon Castle. I have two here, and I know I gave you a sample of each of these as well, and that's what you'll be probably drinking tonight. We have Napoleon Castle 12 and Redbreast 12. I chose the Napoleon Castle because it it seemed a bit more mellow of the two. Um, like it wouldn't overpower the coffee and cocktail as much. And it's also, I mean, I just think it's just a bit better of an Irish coffee to use in a cocktail. It's a little bit friendlier of a price point than the Redbreast 12, and you can get it, I feel, more widely available. Like around here, Hannaford sells them at supermarkets and everything. And I've seen this one basically everywhere I go. Redbreast seems pretty common too, but seem to be in shorter supply and is a bit more expensive. So not exactly the Irish whiskey I wanted to use in a late night cocktail. I'd rather drink that one straight.
Well, I've had good experiences with the Redbreast. As I told you, I went to a Redbreast whiskey tasting event. It was a special dinner. It was like Asian food and Redbreast whiskey, and it was very, very tasty.
That's an interesting pairing. Irish
Yeah,
whiskey and Asian food.
I believe it was.
Surprised I didn't
Unless
give you
I'm
some of the
wrong.
Japanese whiskey there.
Well, it was sponsored by Redbreast, so I'm not sure that would have that might not have flew over well.
Maybe not.
But I remember the whiskey was very good. We had all different cocktails with it, and it was a pretty interesting I don't know, pretty interesting spirit to work with. But we had late night cocktails with those. They weren't Irish specific, but obviously they kind of are
Are there
because
any other cocktails you could
yeah,
think of that would be good with the Irish whiskeys off the top of your head? For
off
one,
the
to get us started, one of the most popular ones that I think everyone knows, it's like Jameson and ginger ale is a very
yeah.
popular one, or just, whiskey, ginger, any sort of whiskey really, or Irish whiskey would go well with it. Just pair a little bit of that, like a ounce and a half shot worth of the Irish whiskey, and top it off with ice and the ginger beer. Fill up a glass, and you're on your way.
I haven't made that many whiskey cocktails. So I'm trying to think about it. And I'm looking at the Red Rust website and they have so many cool different Irish whiskeys. But obviously we have the Napogue as well. So that's, a little different. But I don't know. Oh God, I'm so bad. So I mean, couldn't you make like an old fashioned with it? I think you could make a classic old fashioned, just, with an Irish spin.
Irish spin. Yeah, you could
Yeah.
do that. Call it the old Irish. Do you want to? So, do you have any of these whiskeys on hand for straight up tasting, or did you use them all up in cocktails already?
I only used an ounce of the Napoke, so I
So
don't.
you still have a little bit less. All right.
Paul's getting me the other nips because I forgot to bring them in this room. Thank you. Hand delivery. Got it. Although I think you
Nice.
brought me. I don't know. It'll work. I saw some other cool ones though on the line. I saw the one I wanted to make was an Irish whiskey sour. So it looked really cool. But I didn't have the ingredients. So I was really disappointed. So I think I'm gonna have to make that another time.
Yeah, that's any of those sours or something that I haven't really experimented with yet that I want to. What do you need for a sour? Why don't you give us that recipe there? And we can talk through it, see what we need for ingredients.
Well, there's all different recipes. So it kind of depends what you want to put in it. I mean, some of them are as simple as just adding lemon. And then others, I saw others with grapefruit and all sorts of like this one. Let's see what this one was. They had all different like fun fruity flavors in them that kind of gave them that. So you could do like grapefruit juice, maraschino liqueur. Some of them have vermouth, some of them have grenadine. So I don't know. I guess it depends on what your flavor palette would be if you wanted to add garnish to give it a little extra flavor. But I think traditionally it would have like some sort of a syrup, some sort of a juice. I'm no cocktail artist. I just
Nah,
drink the
yeah, no, we
cocktails.
leave that to the pros. We just drink them. But
We
it's
play
good.
around with them and hope they come out good, and then we drink them,
Hey,
even if they're not
I was
good.
impressed at how my Irish winter cocktail came out here. But with that said, I think if I was behind the bar somewhere, the customers would be pretty mad because it took me an awful long time to get all the ingredients together and get it just right. Um,
Well, what I'd
so
like to make is a cocktail that actually turns green. So I think I would need a food dye for that. I feel
go.
like that would be a fun one to make just for pictures.
I mean, there's plenty of liqueurs and everything, I believe, that are green. Go with absinthe. I've got some absinthe from
Is
back
that
on our
any good?
it's not really my thing. It seems like it has a very, you know what anise is?
Yeah.
It's in those little
Not
pizzelle cookie
licorice.
things, black licorice flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah, sambuca.
Yep.
It's heavy on that flavor, which isn't my thing. I've never really liked that. But with that said, when I did make the espresso martini with it, and I just coated the glass with it, it added almost like a minty, like fresh herbal taste to it on top of it. That was actually really good. So I think in small doses, it makes a good addition, but I wouldn't want it all the time, and I don't think I'd be drinking it straight. That's for sure. Um, but it is good, I guess, in some applications.
Well, I think for same we're not Irish, so we don't have traditions. Like maybe if you were Irish, you would have growing up. So we don't have like a cool tradition here. So I'm very much like, if I go out and like they have that. But when I think of Irish foods, I I know I've had like Irish bread before, but I don't know
Explain
off the top
yourself.
of my head like
What
what
is an Irish bread?
I had. I think it was a soda bread.
To see that might be true because I was looking into it. One of my favorite, if you want to get into Irish foods and stuff before we get into tasting the actual whiskeys, Irish Benedict. So I was just kicking around looking at some different Irish Benedict, recipes and whatnot, and someone put it on that soda bread, and I had no idea what it is. So you might be
Yes,
right.
that is what it was. It was an Irish soda bread, and I got it at a local bakery. They happened to have it. I was making an Irish charcuterie board. So it was like a special thing I was doing. And I had used the rabbit hole whiskey that year. And I did all sorts of like, I did like the gold coins, the cheesy stuff. But then I also did some traditional Irish stuff like the Irish soda bread, which I got at the bakery. And that was pretty good. And I think it had raisins in it. I think that was part of it.
Another favorite Irish food of mine, well, little finger quotes there, is every year McDonald's comes out with the Shamrock Shakes.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
always one of my favorites around this time of year. Alex and I got them the other night. We went to McDonald's as our little anniversary celebration, and we picked up one of each. They have a new one that they came out with. I don't know if they've done this in past years, but little known fact, on our Alex and I's first date, we actually got Shamrock Shakes at one point.
I love that for you
So
guys.
on our anniversary week every year, it's around this time right before St. Patrick's Day, and we hit up Mickey D's and grab some Shamrock Shakes. But we noticed this year on the menu they had a mint Oreo Shamrock McFlurry that we got. So we got one shake and one of those, and that was delicious. The shake was good as always. They kind of got a formula down. Sometimes they put in a little too much of the syrup and it's kind of overpowering, but they got it just right this year. And with that Shamrock McFlurry was awesome with the Oreo and everything added in there. It was definitely a nice treat last weekend.
Well, not so fun fact. I've actually never had one.
What?
So, yeah, I've never had one.
Oh, you got to go get yourself one.
I don't go there, so I've just never gone out of my way
Just
to go get one.
it's
There's
not
so
really
much
go. Hold
hype
on, hold
that I
on.
feel like I should get one.
It's not really going out of your way considering there's a McDonald's every 47 feet, no matter where you're driving. Um, so definitely swing through a drive-through and pick one up. And yeah, so here's the only issue. You've never had one. So you've just had all these years of hype and people building it up is so great that it might not knock your socks off there.
Well, someone tweeted the other day that life just really seems to pick up when Shamrock Shake season comes around. So apparently, you are not the only one that has this opinion of Shamrock Shakes. So I'm gonna have to try one and do a taste test and report back.
There you go. Next Instagram live reels, you can live taste it Shamrock Shake.
What kind of cocktail is it if you add booze to a Shamrock Shake?
Phew. We're gonna go ahead and call that the drunken shamrock, I guess.
The drunken Shamrock. I like it. Should we point it?
Another
Someone's definitely done this.
another popular thing around this year in the food and drink department is the green beer that comes out around this time of year. Bud Light and all the other big domestic ones and all the bars, they all add food coloring and everything to their beer. So if you go out to any bars or anything this time of year, you definitely grab pitchers of green beer.
So
Have you
does
had any of that?
I haven't, and I've always been kind of weirded out by it. Does the food color affect the flavor and consistency of the beer? Because I feel like it would.
I've never had one.
Oh, so we
Again,
might
so
need to
I'm with
add
you in
this
that.
to
Yeah,
the try list.
I know. I'll have to track one down.
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of places are doing it this year though.
Well, I was doing some research heading up on this research intense podcast of ours, and I was making sure I did my due diligence, and places are doing it. They're out there. But I also found a lot of people online that have recipes and they make it themselves. And I think basically you probably just drop some green food coloring into any old beer. So people are doing that as well. But
So you can just home you can just do it yourself. You just take a bottle of green food coloring, you just dump it in your beer, and you see if it tastes good. Sounds really appetizing.
It shouldn't affect the taste all that much. I don't think food coloring usually does, but
Maybe.
never know.
Maybe.
Don't know till you try it.
That's
It's
true.
also that who is it Far from the Tree in Salem? The cider company that has that
Mhm.
ectoplasm cider.
That's true.
They have their green
I still have
cider
to try
there.
that.
I have to try that as well. I haven't been there. And then another favorite around this time of year is Magner's Irish cider. If you're into the hard cider game, Magner's is definitely worth picking up if you see it at your local store anywhere.
Well, the
Um,
majority of cocktails that I found for Irish whiskey recipes centered around Jameson.
that's the big one. You know, when you
Yeah.
think Irish whiskey, Jameson's the one you think. And the other big one now out there is Dewar's. I believe there's a lot of Dewar's as well, but Jameson's definitely the one. And then you got Conor McGregor's the proper 12. That was before the Napo Castle was my first real good bottle of Irish whiskey that I bought, and then the Redbreast 12 here. I had only ever tried Jameson and proper 12. So I never really got into Irish whiskey because neither of those really, did anything for me compared to what I was normally used to drinking with bourbons and ryes and scotch and stuff that I tended to like. But the Napo Castle, first off, I haven't really gotten to try the Redbreast yet, so this one tonight will be like my first time getting into it. But the Napo Castle definitely changed my mind on Irish whiskey and opened my eyes a little bit, because when I poured myself a dram of it the other day and got to tasting it, it's really one of the smoothest whiskeys and a really flavorful whiskey that I've had so far. And on a tasting note, I was, trying to smell. I'm still not very skilled with my whiskey, pulling out the tasting notes and the nose notes and everything. But when I was sniffing it, I was having a hard time really pinning it down. And what I've really come up with is that I find this one, the Napoleon Castle, very similar to some of the rye whiskeys that I like. And on the nose, it was really, it wasn't sweet. It wasn't, vanilla or anything like that you might have in uh, like a scotch. You might have that sweetness, citrusness, or with an Isla one, like when we were talking to Strength and Scotch guys recently, that smokiness. You didn't have any of those different flavors. It was really almost more of like a herbal grassiness to it, and almost like a sharp, like a spicy nose, like it's stung a little bit. Not bad, but you could definitely sense that. And on the taste, definitely more of that grain and grassy taste that you'd get out of a rye whiskey, but super smooth. Again, it's not something that is going to really burn your tongue or anything like a high ABV bourbon might, for example. So I think for someone that's just getting into whiskey, this would be a really great entry bottle or a really great one to jump into before going into anything higher. And I think it's a great representation, I would say, of my few, limited selection of Irish whiskeys. Is definitely my favorite one so far, with the caveat that I've yet to really try this Redbreast over here.
Well, I was reading that what makes Irish whiskey is that it has to be made using malted barley. So that was interesting to learn. And I don't know much about all whiskeys. We did learn a little bit about them on a previous podcast. But do you know more about what makes an Irish whiskey different in terms of flavor, or is it all dependent on the producer?
I don't know a ton on. I think it's gonna probably depend on the producer, because the few different ones that I've tried do all have, completely different.
Yeah,
None of them are the same. So I don't think you can really put them all in the same bucket on that note. But obviously, they're from Ireland. That's
they are from
one
Ireland.
thing.
That is true.
One thing that I find with the Irish whiskeys is that they tend to be cheaper on your average than like their Scotch counterparts for the most part. Like the Napoleon Castle, for this same flavor and quality, I guess, in a scotch from the ones that I've tried at least, you're probably looking at 10 to 15 more dollars a bottle. You know, you're instead of being 35, 30, you're probably looking around closer to 50 for
Mhm.
like a good 12-year scotch single malt. Um, Redbreast was a little bit more on the pricey side. You're looking at, some places you'll find it cheaper, like around you at like a Total Wine, it's probably in the 50s, 53, 55, something like that. But around me, it was like 65 everywhere that I saw it. And that might be because of a St. Patrick's Day markup that the supermarkets and the liquor stores are all putting on them. I
Oh, I'm
wouldn't put
sure
it
they
past
are.
them. They have the big yellow tags on them. Here, get this for St. Patrick's Day. But chances are, I feel like they're probably getting their money's worth around this time of the year on them. But yeah,
So
I definitely would say compared to other whiskeys that I've had, they tend to be smoother and less heavy on like the heat and that high alcohol, like that burn.
it's also interesting that Irish whiskey uses an E, and so does, so do I believe a lot of the US whiskeys.
Yep.
But then there are other countries that don't use the E, they drop it completely, and it's just whiskey
Yep.
without.
In Scotland, it's all whiskey with a no E.
I bet that
WHISKY.
confuses a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't really look at that as much. I think what's coming before it on the label tends to matter a little bit more than that because as you know, who we have coming on tomorrow night and to be released a little bit later this month is Wiggly Bridge, and they're an American, you know, distillery up here in Maine, and they're making bourbon and white whiskey, and they don't use the E. So, you know, that's I
They
don't
just do
think it
their
really,
thing.
yeah. And we'll get into that a little bit more with them, so stay tuned. But do you have the Napoleon Castle here in front of you? I want you to taste it straight up. If you have,
Not this straight up, but I can go get it.
why don't we'll wait on that. It's fine. You got it in your cocktail, so you've had a little bit of an exposure, so we can wait. But do you want to lead us off with the Redbreast? Do you have that with you?
You're gonna kill me.
Why?
We have lost the nip.
Lost one.
We tasted it last night at Paul's house, and I had left it there.
Oh no, which one?
The Redbreast.
Do you have the
I did taste it though, so that kind of counts.
do you have the
Because
Napoleon?
yeah, I have that right here.
All right, so we can try that one, and then that's fine.
I mean, I know
Let's get into
I
that.
like the Redbreast.
Yeah, and you
So
said you tried that one before. You've had it. Yada yada yada. We'll give
so
it to you. It's
you can
fine.
do the tasting on the Redbreast.
Ah,
Lucky
all
you.
up to me, huh?
All the spotlights on you today. You really smell it.
Yeah, because you're drinking it out of a nip bottle.
I usually just pour them into shot glasses, but they're dirty, so I'm not doing that right now. But so it definitely isn't as smoky as some of the whiskeys that I've tried. So I will say that for it. I don't think that it's quite as like heavy on my palate. But then again, it could just be me because you're giving me that look like that's not right.
No, 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 no. I think you're completely right on both of those things. I'm just listening in
Uh,
intently and trying to think. There shouldn't really be, as far as what I've tasted and knowing how these are made, I don't think there really should be any smokiness in any of the Irish whiskeys. So I think you're right on the money there. And like I said, this is a really light, smooth whiskey and one that goes down easy. So I'm with you on that one as well. So great job.
do you like the bottle that it comes in?
It is a nice
That
bottle.
counts for anything.
Yeah.
They show it on their website. I have to say this on ice. And when we were talking to Strength of Scotch and she brought them up, they mentioned that you shouldn't put it on ice. Am I remembering that correctly?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested as to why on their homepage it clearly shows a full glass with ice.
Now, is it ice or is it those frozen ice cube things?
Looks like ice.
Yeah, well, there you go. I guess teach their own, right? The
I think
reason
so.
why, for anyone listening, that you wouldn't want to use ice is because the ice can actually really mess with and change the way that you taste the whiskey based on, I believe, the temperature and just the fact that the ice being so cold can sort of change I guess, the makeup of the whiskey, and you won't get the same experience. Whereas if you want to dilute it to make it a little bit smoother, what I started doing is I have a little dropper, like a little water dropper, and you just splash a couple little drops of distilled water in there, and that will actually open it up and smoothen it out and allow you to get some more different
You're
flavors
very
out of it.
advanced. So
Not that advanced. I took it out of an old it was some kind of oh, what was it? It was like I can't think of the name, like an extract bottle or something like that, something from food or food coloring or anything. I had just an empty bottle, something like that, and I just spent a whole bunch of time cleaning that out and making sure there was no odors or taste or anything in it, and repurposed it. So not that advanced. I didn't go out and make a big investment into this, risky this, but I wanted to try that because I found trying to splash a couple drops of water in there from a spoon or what have you, or anything else, or out of a glass, tends to not work out all the time. You might end up putting a little bit too much water in your whiskey. So I wanted to step it up that way. But I want to get into tasting this Redbreast. This is one that I'm really excited about. It's actually the Strength and Scotch Whiskey Club pick of the month. So this is what we'll be tasting with them later this month.
you're
But
basically a brand ambassador for our podcast friends.
hey, they're awesome. Why not, right? But so this whiskey is the Redbreast Single Pot Still Irish Whiskey. Again, aged 12 years, so it's another triple distilled Irish whiskey. They say here on their bottle, it is a rich mix of dried fruit and spice with toasted oak and sherry undertones. So let's see if we get any of that stuff out of it. But I'm gonna sniff it now in my fancy little Glencairn glass. Get my nose up in there.
It's like ASMR for all of our listeners. You sniffing out of your glass. Oh,
Smells good. Definitely compared to the Napogue, I will say definitely sweeter on the nose. Also seems a little bit harsher on the nose, like in a way, almost more of a tingle, more of a spice that might be blocking, as much as some of the smells compared. I wonder, looking at it, if it might be, what is this? Nah, they're both 40 and 43. So that's off. So that's not it. But yeah, so that's what I'm getting. Definitely sweeter on the nose, almost like a berry type of smell, berry, cherry, something like that. Tasting it, another super smooth, mellow one. Um, I wish you had it to try it out too, so you didn't have to just watch me enjoying
I was doing some research. Our favorite thing to do.
it. Yeah, I mean this thing, it's super smooth. It's going down like water on the when it comes to, I guess, a mouthfeel, like it's just very, very easy to drink. There's no burn or anything. It's not thick or heavy. It doesn't coat your throat too much or anything. Um, really light and smooth. On a, I guess I can see where they're saying with the oak taste. There's definitely some of the barrel notes that I would expect pulling out of like a bourbon or something, a little bit like that. Not really, almost like a sort of wood taste, I guess. I don't know. It's tough. I'm having trouble pulling the flavors out of this one. But again, I am not very trained. I'm not that experienced, but it is tasty. I will say that. I think between these two, if I had to pick everyday drinking Irish whiskey, I prefer the Napoleon Castle. Um, this one's definitely a little bit, I don't want to say harsher, but a little bit hotter in a sense that going down into your throat and your chest and stuff, you definitely feel it more than you did with the Napoleon Castle. And I'd say some of the sweetness, some of the fruity characteristics from the nose definitely come through with the taste as well. And that's about all I can really say about it. But
Well, I went back and found, since you seemed surprised by the Irish whiskey Japanese pairing, I went back and found the menu from 2 years ago.
wow,
Somehow. So
it's your
they
expert research.
they truly did pair it with some really interesting stuff. Mostly there was like tempura, there was all sorts of like Mandarin soy flavors. They also kind of mixed it in with some really interesting things that were not, like chicken liver mousse. So it was a pretty weird menu. It was it was definitely a mixed bag of things, but I do remember them pairing each course specifically, and it really wasn't bad then with the Japanese foods. But they also did put them into like cocktail form. So the cocktails consisted of, like, one of them was more of like a cream based cocktail like I'm drinking now. One of them was more of like a citrus cocktail, which I could see pairing well with some sort of like a sushi or some sort of interesting like bright Japanese flavor like soy. So, it's not completely out there to think that the flavors would match
No,
if you did them
hey,
right.
yeah, I don't disagree. It's one of the I've been to a Japanese restaurant before and paired up some of that and some sushi and some different foods like that with what was it? It was like a Kentucky mule. It was like a bourbon version of a Moscow mule, for example, and that paired well just fine. I know Japanese whiskey's pretty popular, so I could see that pairing well in a cocktail form with those foods. So I definitely yeah, I could see that. I actually had some sushi last night, and I don't think it would be my drink of choice to pair with it. But
You never know until you try
yeah,
it.
yeah, there you
I
go.
was also just looking at the Napoke website, and they have some pretty interesting cocktails on there.
What do
So
they
I'm
got?
definitely going to try some of these. One of those called Irish fried rice, like so out there. One of them is called Shea Lele, which is a green cocktail. So this one's perfect for St. Patrick's Day. And let's see how they make it. It's made with matcha tea, so that's what makes it green.
Definitely have some Alex drinks that. We got some matcha tea powder over there. What's in that? Let's give me that recipe.
That one is the Napoke, obviously, coconut water, cane sugar syrup, and matcha tea. And then you garnish it with a cinnamon stick.
Sounds interesting.
And I think I have to try the razzle dazzle just for fun.
What's the razzle dazzle? Give me that one.
It's pineapple rum, lime juice, mint syrup, absinthe, which I know you said you didn't love, and mascarpone, which I think is that a cream? I think it's cream.
I have no idea.
I think it is. Or is it? I'm looking it up.
Let's find out.
Mascarpone. Cheese.
Cheese. There you go.
Cheese.
Why didn't you know that? You're the
I
cheese
should have
expert.
known that. Why did I think
Should
it
have
was?
known that.
I think it's because it's like a creamy cheese. So
Not your thing.
I don't know. I just don't think I've ever had. I've probably eaten it in things.
You'll have to make it onto your next cheese board.
Well,
Pair it up with your razzle
I
dazzle.
think it's more of a dessert cheese. But I am gonna do. I'm doing a cheese board on Friday. But I am gonna do. And I know we just partnered with Dino's. It's not Dino's. But I'm making a shamrock green pasta for St. Patrick's Day. So it's actually shaped like a little shamrock. It's really cute.
Nice.
Yeah, exciting stuff. But I think that's it for St. Patrick's Day and our lack of being Irish. So for everyone listening, if you have some cool Irish whiskey cocktails to share with us, let us know. We are always looking for new things. You'll see what we're up to. We'll share our cocktails that we've been putting together for the next couple days, so you have some stuff to make And before we leave, let's have Nick give us his recommendation on which Irish whiskey you should get for St. Patrick's Day. Just on time. You can pick it up tomorrow.
I am going to recommend the Napogue Castle. If you're someone that is more into a hot bourbon, like a higher ABV bourbon, I would say go with the Redbreast 12. But the Napogue Castle is going to be my blanket recommendation due to its smoothness. It's just a great taste, great flavor, and it's also pretty accessible at the price range. I think it's just a phenomenal value at the $35 that I paid for the bottle, and you'll probably find it even cheaper near you because stuff tends to be more expensive around me.
And
But
I can vouch for it being good in the cocktail. And it
yeah,
wasn't bad straight either. And that's unusual for me to say. So I will say I could probably drink this by itself. It would just take a lot more of my patience. But this is good. So we'll share our cocktails over on Uncork Corner. So you can follow us wherever. We're all over social. Tag us if you make anything and let us know what you like to make because we, again, are always looking for your recommendations. And Nick loves his whiskey. So anything new, we will pick it up and we will try it.
all right. Well, I think that does it for tonight. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Cheers.
Cheers. Be sure to follow us on social at Uncorked Corner and on the blog at uncorkedcorner.com for a taste of more food and beverage content.
And if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave a comment, subscribe, rate, and review on whatever podcast platform you prefer. Thanks for listening.